Hello dear viewers and welcome to RTD's English News Edition, the top stories. The RPP party has organized a collective iftar and a donation for its annexes. And on the international news, Trump confirms the summit with Kim after receiving his right arm in the Oval Office. Thank you for joining us in our newsroom. On the occasion of the blessed month of Ramadan, the Vice President of the RPP, Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Muhammad, invited all the presidents of the annexes, the executives, as well as the main leaders of the party RPP to a solemn session of collective rupture of fasting, which took place last night around the iftar at the headquarters of RPP Al-Hajj Hassan Goulet Abtidon. Indeed, the president of the 36 annexes of the RPP, as well as the many women leaders in the main neighborhoods of the capital, made the trip to answer the invitation of the vice president of the RPP, Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Muhammad. In total, more than 200 RPP party executives gathered at headquarters to share this moment of faith and conviviality together and know the presence of the Secretary General, Mr. Ilyas Moussedwali, as well as several members of the executive committee, such as the National Secretary to the Civil Society, Dr. Jama Mioki, who attended this moment of solidarity within the RPP family. Many personalities, such as Secretary of State for Social Affairs, Mrs. Muna Osman Aden, and the Mayor of Capital, Mrs. Fatuma Awal Osman, were also present on this occasion. Then after this session, the presidents of the RPP party annexes and their leaders returned to the prayer hall to fulfill their religious duties in piety and communion. And in his speech, the Secretary General, Mr. Ilyas Moussedwali, thanked the presidents of the annexes for having responded to this invitation for the collective iftar. The Secretary General recited a Fatiha in memory of all the deceased who left us, praying to Allah to open the doors for His paradise. He also prayed for the recovery and healing of the patients. Mr. Ilyas Moussedwali then urged all the presidents of the annexes to ensure that the poor and the orphans are always given priority in all the donation charity initiatives that will take place in their neighborhoods. And on the other hand, while thanking all the participants in the collective breaking fast organized by the RPP Vice President Abdul Qadir Kamil Muhammad recalled the foundation of the blessings of the month of Ramadan, which is a good time to intensify our prayers, he said, strengthen our faith, to affirm our repentance, and to obtain the forgiveness of Allah. The Vice President said that we are in the second half of the blessed month of Ramadan. It is the moment to increase prayers and religious fervor for all the activists of the RPP and must engage more militancy to consolidate the actions of the party RPP, so to support the policy led by the President of the Republic, which is to reinforce the cohesion of the party RPP. Vice President Abdul Qadir Kamil Muhammad also sent a message of unity and cohesion that symbolizes the RPP family's commitment to the ideals and fundamental values of the Republic. And at the end of this session of the iftar, Vice President Mr. Abdul Qadir Kamil Muhammad and the General Secretary Mr. Ilyas Moussedwali, as well as the members of the Executive Committee, whose National Secretary Dr. Jama Al-Mouki, proceeded to the delivery of food for 1,000 members from committees of the annexes. Indeed, these food donations are hand-delivered to the heads of the annexes, who are responsible for distributing them equitably among the members of the committees. And in his speech, the National Secretary to the Civil Society, Dr. Jama Mioki, said that these donations of food rations are offered by the President of the Republic, who is also the President of the party RPP, Mr. Ismail Margeli, and his First Lady, Mrs. Khadra Mahmoud Haid. Under the patronage of the Ministry of Islamic Affairs and Culture, Mumin Hassan Barre, the religious affiliation of the Saudi Embassy in Djibouti closed yesterday evening activities of the campaign on the promotion of the Holy Quran. During a collective iftar organized for the ulamas, the ceremony was held in the presence of the Minister of Higher Education and Research, Dr. Labid Mohammed Ahmed, former Prime Minister Dilaita Mohammed Dilaita, the acting charge d'affaires of the Saudi Embassy in Djibouti, Hassan bin Mohammed Al Ahmari, and representative of diplomatic corps accredited in our country. The religious attaché of the MPC of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Sheikh Abdul Ahmed Hakimi, the directors of the memorization centers of the Holy Quran, and dozens of imams and preachers attended this event. And let's recall that the campaign, which is the first of its kind in Djibouti, is composed including the Holy Quran and scientific courses and seminars, in addition to field visits to a number of centers of memorization of the Holy Quran in the capital of Djibouti. The religious affiliation of the MPC of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia delivered a speech in which he expressed his thanks and gratitude to the Minister of Islamic Affairs and senior officials for attending the ceremony devoted to the conclusion of the Quran campaign. Sheikh Abdul Ahmed Hakimi reviewed the objectives of this campaign and the efforts of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia over decades to serve the Holy Quran and the Sunnah. This initiative comes within the framework of religious programs and activities carried out by the attaché under the supervision of the MPC of the servant of the two holy mosques, and reflects the deep fraternal relations between Djibouti and the Kingdom. And in turn, the Minister of Islamic Affairs has expressed his satisfaction to his sponsor at this ceremony. Mr. Mumin Hassan Barre emphasized that this opportunity comes after the closing of the 90th edition of the regional contest organized by his department during the blessed month of Ramadan every year, with the participation of candidates from the countries of the region. The Minister of Islamic Affairs praised the efforts of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia through religious attachment in Djibouti to serve the Book of Allah and to spread the Islamic culture. In the national news as well, the Minister of Labour in charge of the Reform and Administration, Mr. Hassan Idris Samirre, is currently participating in the work of 170th session of the International Labour Conference of ILO. The conference will be held at the United Nations Palace in Geneva from May 28 to June 8, 2018. The minister was accompanied by a large two-party delegation composed of representatives of the government, representatives of workers' organizations and employers, and Ms. Khadra Ahmed Hassan, ambassador of Djibouti in Switzerland, and permanent representative of to the United Nations office, also attended the plenary sessions of the conference. The third day of the conference began with the plenary discussion on gender equality at work. Delegates commented on the report of ILO Director General Guy Ryder entitled "The Initiative on Women at Work and New Impetus for Equality." The Minister of Labour delivered his speech at the plenary session of the International Labour Conference on May 31st. In his address, the Minister highlighted the major social advances. The Minister Delegate for Trade and Small Businesses, Tourism and Handicraft, Hassan Hamad Ibrahim, took part in the 170th session of the ACP Council of Ministers in Lomé, Togo, from 28 to 30 May 2018. This ministerial session, chaired by Mrs. Smith Kamina, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Jamaica and Chairperson in Office of the ACP Council of Ministers, discussed important issues such as the future negotiations on the partnership linking the European Union to the states of Group ACP, which expires in 2020, the revision of the Cotonou Agreement. In addition, the ACP ministers have adopted the mandate of ACP negotiations for a partnership agreement to succeed the Cotonou Agreement, and the minister also participated in the extraordinary session of the ACP Council of Ministers on 27 May and dedicated to the future of the ACP group and the future partnership governing the EU and the group. On Monday, May 28, he also attended the ACP Development Finance Committee, and lastly, Hassan Hamad Ibrahim is attending the 430th session of the ACP EU Joint Council of Ministers, co-chaired for the ACP party by the Jamaican Minister for Foreign Affairs, and for the European side, the Bulgarian and Foreign Minister Radine Denov. The relations between the ACP countries and the EU after 2020 will be examined, strengthening cooperation between the parties in the migration and development parties. The Turkish Development Agency called TIKA organized a collective iftar at the Hotel Corto Maltese. This iftar, followed by a dinner, brought together, besides the administrative authorities of the region, namely Mr. Abdul Malik, Prefect of Tijara, the Vice President of the Regional Council, Abdul Qadir Umar, and other heads of decentralized services. Among the eminent guests were the Sultan and the Vizier, as well as several notables from the Tijara region. This invitation, launched by the TK agency, is that the blessed month of Ramadan gathered more than part of the 150 people of the city of Tijara. The Prefect as well as the Sultan thanked the officials of the TK agency for this iftar and the fraternal bond between the two peoples. The Regional Council of Tajura organized a rupture of fast, the sub-prefect of the Dora, more precisely in the locality of Bal'o. This ceremony saw the participation of the President of the Regional Council of Tajura, Mr. Umar Hussein Umar, and the Colonel of Army of Tajura, Mr. Ali Shahim, who moved in the locality of Bal'o to do the collective iftar with the rural community. Not to mention that women took part in this ceremony, which is the first at the rural level. Indeed, after the breaking of fast, the religious leaders recalled that breaking fast collectively is very important since the time of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. And on the news outside our borders, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi vowed to tackle jihadists and revive the economy as he was sworn in Saturday for a second four-year term after a wave of arrests. Let's listen to this report.
He took the presidential oath before Spake Parliament after winning 97% of all the votes in March's presidential election. Fighter jets drew in an Egyptian flag in the sky above Cairo, and military helicopters flew over the city center as the president made his way to Parliament, where he was greeted with a 21-gun salute. He is regularly being accused by human rights defenders of violating public freedom and silencing opponents.
Pedro Sanchez is sworn in as Spain's Prime Minister. More with Hindi Ibrahim.
Mr. Sanchez, who is an atheist, took the oath to protect the Constitution without a papal or crucifix. A first in Spanish modern history, he plans to see out the remaining 2 years of the parliamentary term. The socialist leader won the support of 6 other parties to remove Mr. Rajo over massive corruption scandal. As a Spanish new minister, whose party only has a quarter of the seats in the parliament, he now has to decide who to include in his cabinet and is expected to name them next week. In a private ceremony at the royal residence in Madrid on Saturday, Mr. Sanchez foresees promises to faithfully fulfill his duty.
U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed his historic summit with Kim Jong-un after receiving the White House right arm carrying a personal letter from the North Korean leader. We're going to meet on June 12 in Singapore, he told the press, who will be the first president of the United States in exercise to meet in person with an heir of the Kim dynasty who has ruled for 70 years on the north of the Korean peninsula. He was speaking only a week after cancelling the summit by denouncing Pyongyang's hostility. In a new demonstration of spectacular ease between the two enemy countries, the American president met for nearly an hour and a half in the Oval Office with General Kim, presented as the second most powerful man in Korea, in North Korea, the latter on the front line in the preparation of the summit with his American counterpart. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo handed him a letter from Kim Jong-un, whose content was not revealed immediately. All smiles, he escorted the emissary back to his car, shaking his hand several times while he continuing to talk with him for several more minutes. And this is it for this news. Thank you for joining us on RTD and have a good night.